Global stocks start the week on a strong note as investors assess President Trump's tariff threat. African Development Bank signs a $400 million deal to boost small business growth across Africa. And while Turkey leads the world in tea consumption, it's China and India that dominate production. Hello there, my name is Neil Harvey. I'm here with the latest business and finance news for you on TLT World. Global stocks kicked off the week on a positive note, with investors keeping a close eye on whether US President Donald Trump's threat of tariffs will actually materialise. Asia-Pacific stocks started the month in the green as uncertainty around tariff rates raised hopes for perhaps softer measures. Chinese shares climbed over 1%, boosted by stronger than expected manufacturing data from February. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei 225 rebounded strongly Monday, recovering some ground after last session's 3% drop. Iron ore futures extended their losing streak to 6 sessions amid ongoing trade tensions, though upbeat Chinese manufacturing data helped to cushion the decline. The most traded May iron ore contract slipped 0.75% to $109 per metric ton. Oil saw some bargain buying after a rough February, and gold is attempting a recovery after logging its worst week in 3 months, pressured by a stronger US dollar and some profit taking. Also, crypto markets are rallying. Now, they've been fueled by a major announcement from President Trump, who revealed 5 digital assets set to be included in a new US strategic crypto reserve. Bitcoin surged more than 10% over the weekend, while Ether, XRP, Solana and Cardano also posted strong gains, rebounding sharply from last week's pretty hefty lows. The names of the tokens had not previously been announced. Okay, let's bring in Tim Water, who is a business and trade analyst. He joins me live on the line from Sydney. Appreciate your time and expertise. Let's start with the global markets then, kicking off the month higher. How much would you say the rally is about optimism, potentially softer tariffs from the US? It makes me think perhaps people think that Donald Trump's a bit of a bluffer.
Nice to be with you. Yeah, let's see what happens there. But you're right, a good start to the markets for March. I think a lot of it that was driven by a bit of end-of-month position squaring in the US on Friday, but nonetheless, Asian markets took the ball and ran with it today. So I think what we're seeing is perhaps, a case of markets rolling with the punches. I mean, I don't think this tariff story has gone away. We have heard the US Commerce Secretary maybe just leaving the door open a little bit for some perhaps movement down in those tariffs that look like they're going to be applied to Canada and Mexico. So they haven't sort of locked in 25% there yet. Market's hoping we could see something a little bit on the softer side. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I think there's a few good news stories still there in the market at the moment. Obviously, what's happening in China at the moment with their tech shares, they're still remaining in vogue. But I think there is an air of caution still. We don't know what the final details will be when Trump turns his attention to the EU and tariffs, and then who's next after that? Will it be another big exporting market like Japan? So could still be a few more bumps in the road, but yeah, right now markets are taking it in their stride.
What about gold? It's been under pressure from a strong US dollar. What's your short-term outlook for precious metals?
Yeah, so gold has been one of the top performing assets last year, and doing well so far this year. It did slip below some key support there this week in that 875 to 2880 range, and that's just sort of exacerbated the selling a little bit. So yeah, a strong US dollar, that's not helping gold. Markets are sort of anticipating we could see some sort of deal done on Russia-Ukraine. That could dry up some safe haven demand there. And I think gold also fell victim to a little bit of that month-end profit taking after it hit its all-time record high in February. So a few factors working against gold in recent days, but I still think the broader constructive outlook remains intact. Central banks are still very keen on adding the gold assets to their reserves, and investors are still looking to buy gold as sort of an inflation or trade uncertainty hedge. So I think if support around that 2830 level can hold, we could see gold once again tracking north and maybe having the 3K level in its sights.
Bitcoin and some of the top cryptocurrencies by market cap surged in the last few days after President Trump revealed his strategic crypto reserve picks. It's an interesting one, this. I mean, I'd argue XRP, just how much intrinsic value does it actually have? But he's named them and it's had a big impact. Do you think they will benefit long term from being named in this fund of his?
certainly investors are sort of positioning that way right now. I mean, I still think there's a lot of details we'll need to learn, but I think the view at this point is that what we're hearing from President Trump and his team is that the cryptocurrency world, they'll get an easier run from a regulatory standpoint. So that's suiting those assets right now. And I think from a liquidity point of view, then adding crypto assets to the US's balance sheet, which would diversify, that would also stop, in some ways, the US government, I guess, selling their acquired crypto assets on the market and putting downward pressure on prices. So there's a few factors working in favor of crypto at the moment, but yeah, early signs markets reacted positively. But once again, the devil will be in the details. But we are hearing a lot of certainly positive signs and attitudes towards crypto at the moment, and the underlying assets are responding accordingly.
Tim, good to speak to you. Thanks so much for your time. Tim Water, a business and trade analyst, live on the line from Sydney. Now, European allies have agreed to form a coalition of the willing to guarantee peace in Ukraine. Following a security summit in London, the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that Britain, France and other countries had agreed to develop a plan with Ukraine to end the fighting, which they would then present to the United States. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says that European unity is at an extremely high level, not seen for a long time. Lapia Larinoya has details.
London's historic Lancaster House became the epicentre of European unity. A show of togetherness in London as European leaders gathered to reinforce Europe's steadfast solidarity with Ukraine and push for peace. British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer led the talks, joined by France's Emmanuel Macron, Germany's Olaf Scholz and other key allies.
The reason I've been forward-leaning on this is because I want to avoid conflict, because I do not want conflict in Ukraine, in Europe, and certainly not in the United Kingdom.
The man at the centre of it all, President Volodymyr Zelensky, received a warm welcome from European leaders, a stark difference to his Washington experience.
The important thing is that everyone here has clearly reaffirmed that they want to support Ukraine. It is the country under attack, the victim of Russian aggression.
Although this summit galvanized European leaders into action, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan played a key role, reinforcing Ankara's calls for diplomacy between the warring sides.
I hope for an immediate ceasefire, followed by a lasting peace agreement. Different countries have varying perspectives on the essential elements needed to achieve this. But, as our president has stated, peace has no losers.
Following the heated exchange at the Oval Office and US support now under question, European leaders outlined a new four-step peace plan to end the worsening conflict.
Europe has to take more responsibility and start bearing the burdens associated with building a defense industry, increased aid for Ukraine during the war, and the greater spending within NATO on their defense budgets.
The one thing we absolutely cannot afford is a peace that doesn't last. This is something Ukraine cannot afford, Europe cannot afford, and the United States cannot afford.
Although the summit marked unity and a plan for peace, but with another meeting planned in Brussels in the coming week, the road ahead remains uncertain. Lapia Larinoye, TRT World, London.
Okay, let's take a quick look now at other business stories making headlines around the world, starting with Iran's parliament dismissing the Finance Minister Abdel Nasser Hemati over his handling of high inflation and a declining currency in the country. On Sunday, the Iranian rial was trading at more than 920,000 per US dollar on the black market. That's a significant decline from 600,000 in mid-2024. China's Honor smartphone company has pledged $10 billion in artificial intelligence investments over the next 5 years. With the move, Honor aims to expand beyond China and target the high-end market, transforming from a smartphone player into an AI device ecosystem company. As part of the strategy, Honor also announced deeper ties with Google. Britain's Information Commissioner's Office launched an investigation on Monday into how TikTok, Reddit and Imgur protect children's privacy. The probe especially focuses on how TikTok uses the personal data of 13 to 17-year-olds to recommend content. In 2023, the ICO fined TikTok $16 million for using children's data without the consent of parents. And shares of China's largest bubble tea chain, Mixu, surged over 40% on its market debut Monday, following a heavily oversubscribed IPO. The company raised $444 million in Hong Kong's biggest IPO of the year, reallocating more shares due to overwhelming demand. The strong debut stands in contrast to its smaller rival Guming, whose shares fell on debut in February. Now, 2 weeks have passed since Israeli forces withdrew from several villages in Lebanon's south. In many areas, following the destruction of civilian infrastructure, basics such as electricity have still not been restored. But despite few resources, people in southern Lebanon are excited to celebrate Ramadan. Priyanka Navani has more.
In Mais al-Jabal, a Lebanese border village that has been nearly completely destroyed in the Israel-Hezbollah war, people are still coming to terms with sites like these. Tons and tons of rubble yet to be cleared, funerals are still being held, and the grieving process for all that has been lost feels ongoing.
We are coming back again with all these damages and all that has happened. We are here. I didn't just have a house here, I had many things that I did with my own hands. It's the first time I came back. They destroyed everything, but I don't care about this. They can destroy all of this, but they can't take the land from us.
Observing Ramadan here will not be an easy feat. Multiple mosques have been destroyed, including this one. It's over 100 years old, and residents say it was attacked multiple times throughout the course of the war. There's also no electricity in Mais al-Jabal and a single functioning bakery. But the community is doing its best to come together and provide for one another.
The determination to rebuild here in southern Lebanon is particularly strong given Ramadan. This supermarket was bombed during the war, but now the owner has reopened right next door, just in time for the holy month.
This is the first market to be reopened in Mais al-Jabal, according to owner Musa Yahya, constituting both a physical and emotional relief for residents.
Now we are preparing for Ramadan, and in the middle of Ramadan, our houses will be restored, and we will go back. We were born here, we live here, and we will come back here.
The coming Ramadan won't look like years past. The decor and lights that usually decorate streets are absent this year. But after so much loss, what's most important, people say, is the ability to observe the month together, back in their beloved village, back in the place they were forced out of for so many months. Priyanka Navani, TRT World, Mais al-Jabal, South Lebanon.
Now, during Ramadan, a simple cup of tea carries deep significance. As families gather to break their fast, tea becomes a symbol of warmth, hospitality and togetherness. Beyond its cultural role, though, tea is actually a powerful economic driver, shaping industries, sustaining farmers and influencing global trade. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after, obviously, water. The global tea market is projected to reach $33.9 billion by 2032, growing at 5.9% compound annual growth rate. Over 2 billion people drink tea every day, supports, as I said, millions of farmers and workers worldwide. Turkey, now this surprised me, Turkey leads the world in per capita tea consumption, with each person drinking around 1,300 cups per person per year. That is 3 to 4 cups each day. The tea industry in Turkey provides thousands of jobs, especially in the Black Sea region where most of the country's tea is grown. China produces nearly half of the world's tea. It dominates the global supply. India follows, contributing around 20%. Together, these two nations shape international tea prices, supply chains and global trade. South Korea's tea market, though, is growing quickly, 44% over the last 4 years. It's reached over $680 million in 2023. And now we have luxury tea experiences like tea omakase. They're driving premium tea sales. Despite the country's rich tea heritage, per capita tea consumption, though, remains relatively low at 168 grams per year. Okay, let's bring in Najada Abdullah. She's the co-founder of Island Blends, a tea brand in the Maldives. Great to have you on. Tea, hundreds of billions of dollars in this industry. It sustains millions of livelihoods. I didn't realise this was such a huge part of global economies. How do you see the role of tea changing? Is it a stable industry? And what about the impact in developing countries?
Thank you for having me. And tea is a massive industry that supports millions of livelihoods, and in developing countries especially. For example, in the tea-producing regions like Sri Lanka, Kenya, India, it creates employment for a lot of people. For example, Sri Lanka, it supports around 2 million livelihoods, including tea farmers, factory workers and traders, also other related businesses. And it also helps the economies with bringing foreign exchange through export. And also tea being used as a daily essential in many cultures. It has constant demand, and due to this is a reliable source of income for, particularly for communities in these developing countries.
Just explain for us the cultural role that tea plays as part of the tradition in Muslim-majority countries during Ramadan.
Yeah, in Muslim cultures, actually, tea is not just a drink, it is a ritual that brings people together, especially in Ramadan during iftar time. Till suhoor, tea is always on the table, especially in countries like Turkey, in Morocco, Egypt. It is a must-have drink during Ramadan. Also, it is similar in the Maldives. And tea is also a symbol of hospitality. And when they invite guests for iftar and suhoor, they welcome the people with a warm cup of tea. And also during family gatherings and in other social events, tea is a common drink. And what is interesting is how the tea is served and prepared. It differs from country to country. It is actually tied to the tradition and it has a rich culture.
Obviously, the market's huge, but there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of premium brands coming into the market these days. Tell us a bit more about island blends. What have you got going over there in the Maldives and how you're trying to be different?
The tea industry is changing very fast, and it's exciting to see the evolution. And traditionally, people were always talking about the black teas, but now people are not looking for a regular cup of tea. They are looking for high quality premium teas, health benefits, and also convenience. So due to the shift in these premium teas and people are looking for more health benefits, in island blends, we are focusing on blending the tradition with modern consumer needs. And I believe that tea is a future drink.
Najada, thank you so much. Najada Abdullah, co-founder of Island Blends, a tea brand in the Maldives. The Stilfontein mining site in South Africa has been closed since the removal of illegal miners there. It's now under 24-hour police surveillance, and the once busy shafts are now quiet. The businesses in the area are bearing the brunt as the cash flow that was once provided by those miners is now dried up. Musa Makhalifi reports.
The only thing that may be left in Stilfontein Shaft 11 are the ghosts of Zamazamas, illegal miners who died there. Operation Valumgodi, or Close the Hole, was a brutal government enforcement action that took place from August 2024 to January 2025 and ultimately resulted in the deaths of at least 80 men, likely from starvation. But the shutting down of the operation has impacted local businesses. Once bustling establishments that thrived on customer traffic are now enveloped in an unsettling quiet.
The Zamazamas were the ones who brought in more money in Kuma. There was business. Ever since this happened, it's been quiet.
For many years, illegal miners were a crucial economic support and a vital presence in Stilfontein and the nearby Kuma township. Taxis now operate with empty seats. Residents are trying to find other jobs to sustain their families in a country where 1 in 3 people is jobless, according to the latest official figures. We would like to see job creation. We have kids. They are done with school and are now just sitting at home with their certificates.
We appeal to the government to help assist with jobs, especially here in Kuma. Some locals also feel Zamazamas were not only a financial boon for businesses, but they also provided a sense of security against crime.
The Zamazamas are so made feel degraded because they're always named as criminals and bad people. And I can honestly say, from the bottom of my heart, they have just been good to the Stilfontein and Kuma community. They protect us, they look after us, they're not at all what people say they are.
To address the widening poverty gap and facilitate the return of miners to Stilfontein, community leaders want authorities to legalize small-scale mining.
I'm not against with an Operation Valumkoti, but can they legalize the certificate and give the community artisan certificates so that, because that's the only thing that we know in Stilfontein and in Kuma.
Analysts estimate that there are about 30,000 illegal miners working in the 6,000 abandoned mine shafts across the country. People believe they've mostly been taken over by violent criminal syndicates. The government says illegal mining cost the economy more than $3 billion last year. But whether the fallout from the months-long standoff will prompt it to take an alternative approach when it comes to artisanal mining and the communities it supports remains to be seen. Musam Kalipi, TRT World, Stilfontein, South Africa.
Now, small businesses are the backbone of economic growth across Africa, yet many struggle to secure the funding they need to thrive. However, a groundbreaking financial agreement between the African Development Bank and Standard Bank is aiming to change that. With nearly $400 million in funding now on the table, this collaboration is promising to have a significant impact on small businesses, paving the way for sustainable development and progress. So small, medium enterprises or SMEs are set to get a boost from a $190 million social bond. That's from the African Development Bank Group and Standard Bank. It's an initiative that targets businesses with annual turnovers below $60 million and loans under $2 million. A $200 million risk participation agreement, or RPA, will enhance trade finance across the continent, focusing on low-income countries and transition states. Now, that agreement allows local banks to share risks, increasing lending and bridging Africa's trade finance gap. By improving access to capital, the initiative hopes to empower businesses to scale their operations and to strengthen intra-African trade. By supporting up to 4,000 businesses, the bond is going to fuel job creation and economic stability. SMEs generate 60% of South Africa's jobs. Increasing access to finance strengthens financial inclusion and business resilience. The strategic partnerships aiming to break down financial barriers and ensure that SMEs receive the capital they need to expand and thrive. Ahmed Atout is the Director of Financial Sector Development at the African Development Bank, and he said that the bank is aiming to create additional capacity to the small-scale sector to grow by providing additional resources to support economic developments through intra-Africa trade.
We have been very active, just to give you context, we have been very active in supporting regional African financial institutions access different type of financing, especially the Tier 2 capital that is compliant with Basel III regulations. So we extend the carefully structured subordinated facilities that has the Tier 2 features under Basel III requirements in terms of loss absorbency and maturity profile, including non-call provisions and the introduction of capital buffers. So to answer your question, we are structuring even more complex operations to achieve greater results. So if you look at our track record with similar operations, you will notice that we aim to create additional capacity to fund the real sector growth by allowing additional resources to be directed toward the real sector, supporting economic development without necessarily causing financial stress. So in recent transactions and the ones we have been approving recently, our subscription to Tier 2 qualifying social and green bonds, we have embedded African banks to scale up significantly the support to SMEs, financing, and social infrastructure. So we at the African Development Bank, we position trade finance at the core of facilitating the real economy in Africa and supporting the movement of goods, both internationally and domestically. Our strategic objectives is clear in promoting intra-Africa trades and Africa trade with the world. This is for sure while supporting the Africa Free Trade area. We aim to strengthen the supply of, or the supply side of trade finance on the continents, and by extension, the trade flows between African countries. And we have been doing this impactfully with important quantum and vast outreach. So I can give you a figure that since 2013, we have facilitated up to USD 12 billion worth of trade transactions, which is a very important number. Looking at this line of business. So in terms of the RPA, we leverage it, or we leverage the RPA, and we leverage our AAA rated status to partner with regional and international confirming banks in scaling up support for issuing banks. This is central to intra-Africa trades, as our trade finance program facilitates trade by addressing key cost elements such as shipping, regulatory compliance, and distribution that helps African corporates and banks expand productivity, production, and streamline trade transactions.
The war in Sudan has forced more than 10,000 schools to close and left around 19 million children without access to formal education. In the eastern city of Port Sudan, one small school, though, is offering a second chance to students who have been left behind. TRT World's Hilal Ozun reports.
In this humble classroom in Port Sudan, dreams are being rekindled. War and displacement have disrupted lives across the country and forced many to abandon their education. But here, adults who once missed out on school are finding their way back.
The project began in 1995 because around 80% of the local and non-local population was illiterate. That's what pushed me to act.
For 3 decades, Amna Mohammed Ahmed has been a lifeline for those who were denied an education due to cultural or financial barriers.
This school is for those who were too late to enroll in school and who never attended regularly. People who dropped out for different reasons, especially women.
Amna's vision has helped many students, offering a chance to learn and grow.
I watched someone go from not knowing how to read or write to graduating from university, getting a job, and supporting their family.
For 28-year-old Maria, returning to school means reclaiming the opportunities she missed as a child.
I dropped out of school when I was 11 years old. Now I want to finish my education so I can help my children.
In a country where education is becoming increasingly out of reach, Amna's school gives its students a chance to rewrite their stories. Hilal Ozun, TRT World.
And that wraps it up. That's all your business news for now. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.